Piles of unpaid bills swam in front of Sarah Thompson's eyes as she lingered at her kitchen table, her morning coffee cooling in a chipped ceramic mug. 8 years had slipped by since Emma's disappearance, but the burden of hiring private detectives, facial aging experts, and keeping online campaigns alive hadn't lightened. She absent-mindedly sorted through the envelopes, power, water, another bank statement, when her phone vibrated on the scratched wooden table, flashing an unfamiliar local number. "Mrs. Thompson, this is Detective Carter from the county sheriff's office," the voice said, calm yet edged with a tone that made her clutch the phone harder. "We need to talk about your daughter's case." Her pulse pounded in her chest. After 8 years, updates about Emma were rare, often leading to dead ends or heartless hoaxes. "Have you found anything new?" "Ma'am, I'd prefer to meet in person, but since it's urgent, electricians at an abandoned site uncovered items we think might be your daughter's." The world seemed to spin. Sarah's free hand scrambled for a pen, toppling the pepper shaker. "Where? What was found?" "The site's on Pine Hollow Road, roughly 15 miles from town. The house was set for demolition and the crew was inspecting wiring when they entered the crawl space." He paused, papers shuffling in the background. "Mrs. Thompson, they found clothes and belongings matching what Emma wore that day." Her hand trembled as she jotted the address on a water bills envelope. 15 miles. The initial search had spanned 5 miles from the school, later stretching to 10. Pine Hollow Road had seemed too distant for a 6-year-old to reach. "I'm on my way," she said, already on her feet. "Mrs. Thompson, please brace yourself. The findings are unsettling. The scene indicates I'm coming." She ended the call, snatching her keys and bag in one swift motion. The drive felt eternal despite her speeding. She passed familiar sights, the elementary school, the weathered water tower, the chapel where candlelit vigils were held, before entering unfamiliar rural terrain. Suburbia gave way to sprawling fields, then thick, untamed woods. Her GPS ticked down the miles as her mind churned through grim scenarios, each worse than the last. Pine Hollow Road was little more than a dirt path twisting through heavy forest. She nearly overlooked the police cars until she spotted yellow tape strung between 2 maples. The house crouched like a forgotten relic, a low ranch-style structure with peeling paint, a sagging porch, and windows either shattered or sealed with plywood. Weeds had overtaken what might have once been a yard. Detective Carter greeted her at the tape's edge. Younger than she'd pictured, his warm eyes carried the burden of what he'd witnessed. "Mrs. Thompson, thanks for coming. I'll guide you through our findings, but this is an active investigation." "Just let me see," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. He guided her along a trail marked with evidence tags skirting the house's side. The foundation showed cracks with gaps between concrete blocks. At the rear, a wooden panel leaned against the wall, exposing a low, dark opening. "The electricians needed to check the main circuit box," Carter said, pointing to the gap. "It's in the crawl space." He pulled out a tablet, swiping to crime scene images. "I can show you photos first, or you can view the scene itself." "Both are tough." "I need to see it in person," Sarah insisted. Carter handed her protective shoe covers and gloves. "Forensics has mostly finished, but we're preserving the scene." He knelt by the opening, bright LED lights casting a glow inside. "Follow me and please don't touch anything." The crawl space reeked of damp soil and a stale odor of neglect. Sarah shuffled awkwardly, trailing Carter's flashlight across packed dirt. About 12 feet in, a cleared area appeared. Then she saw it, a grimy red mattress, small enough for a child, stained with dirt and unidentifiable marks. A heavy chain, tethered to a nearby post, ended in an open padlock, its metal still shiny despite light rust. On the concrete wall, a faded Hello Kitty poster hung, taped up and curling at the edges. But clearly the kind Emma adored. The clothes shattered her. Strewn across the mattress like abandoned toys were Emma's denim overalls, the ones with a hand-stitched daisy on the pocket Sarah had made. Next to them lay a blue and orange striped shirt, its fabric oddly intact in the dry space. A pink backpack sagged in the corner, its cartoon figure still visible under layers of dust. "Oh God," Sarah whispered, collapsing to her knees. She was here. "There's more," Carter said softly. His light revealed two ceramic plates near the mattress, crusted with ancient food scraps. A small plastic water bottle lay tipped over. "We found DNA, a hair, fingerprints on the plates and bottle. The lab's analyzing it now." "How long was she here?" Her voice broke. "Based on the mattress wear and debris buildup, forensics estimates weeks, maybe months." He chose his words carefully. "Mrs. Thompson, we also found signs in the main house. Whoever kept your daughter here had full access." Sarah reached for the striped shirt, stopping short of contact. She'd pressed that shirt the night before Emma vanished, using the rosewater spray her daughter loved. Part of her heard Carter explaining how the crawl space's stable temperature and low humidity preserved everything, but her eyes stayed locked on the tiny clothes that once held her little girl. "Who owned this place?" she asked at last. "George Harrison, 76. He's been in a nursing home for 3 years. The property was leased through a defunct agency, Willow Realty. They folded 4 years ago, but we're digging up their files." "And the tenant?" Carter's face tightened. "Harrison says it was a long-term lease, paid in cash. He met the renter once at the showing, a quiet guy, kept mentioning needing extra storage. Rent arrived in cash-stuffed envelopes, always prompt, so Harrison never checked on the place." Outside, Sarah spotted a faded sign half covered by ivy, Willow Realty for lease. The phone number was illegible. "We're combing through everything," Carter promised. "The state lab's sending more texts. If there's a trace of who did this, we'll find it." Sarah glanced back at the house, its dark windows glinting in the sun. Somewhere inside, her daughter had been kept. While she'd been stapling posters and rallying search teams, Emma was here, 15 miles away, hidden from the world. "The rental payments," she said abruptly. "There have to be records. We're looking." Harrison's son is going through his dad's documents. The agency's files were supposed to transfer to another firm, but Carter shrugged. "Old paper trails aren't always well kept." As they returned to the cars, Sarah memorized the scene, the rusty mailbox, the gravel path, the cluster of pines that would have glowed green in spring. Emma might have seen those trees through unboarded windows. Did she watch their needles fall? Did she count them to pass the days? "What's next?" she asked. "We scour every inch of this place. We chase every lead from the lease records and Mrs. Thompson." Carter held her gaze. "We keep going until we know who's responsible." Harold had visibly aged since Sarah last saw him a year ago. His shoulders slumped more noticeably, and his once thick white hair was now sparse, combed thinly across his scalp. The gas station's harsh lights deepened the shadows beneath his eyes, and the confident stance of a crossing guard had softened into the careful steps of an older man. As he turned from the counter, receipt in hand, his pale blue eyes locked with hers. They widened in recognition, and his lined face broke into the familiar, sorrowful smile she'd seen countless times during the search efforts. "Sarah," he said quietly, shifting his groceries to one arm. "I heard about this morning's discovery. I'm so sorry." The raw grief in his voice tightened her chest. Here was someone who genuinely cared, who'd trekked miles looking for Emma, who'd cried openly at her memorials. "Harold," she replied, her voice catching. "I heard you retired. How are you holding up?" He glanced toward the parking lot, where Sarah now spotted an aging Winnebago parked by the farthest pump. The RV showed its years, rust speckled its beige exterior, and duct tape covered a cracked window. "Doing all right. Been traveling a bit with my niece," he said, adjusting his hold on a pint of ice cream. "Well, adopted niece, technically. Her parents died when she was little, so I took her in. Felt like the right thing to do." Through the RV's open door, Sarah glimpsed movement. A girl, about 14, sat at a small table, visible through the side window. Her long blonde hair was tied back in a ponytail. Her face rounder than Emma's would have been, dressed in a worn blue t-shirt. She was engrossed in something, maybe a book, idly licking an ice cream spoon. "That's really kind of you," Sarah said sincerely. After losing his wife to cancer years ago, Harold had stayed single. She'd thought he was alone in retirement. "Raising a kid at your age, that's a big step. Family's everything," Harold replied simply, edging toward the door. Sarah followed, finding comfort in this chance meeting with someone who'd shared her pain. "I'd love to meet her," she said as they stepped into the warm afternoon air. "It's nice to know you've got company after all this." She trailed off, walking beside him toward the RV. The shift was sudden and startling. Harold's slow shuffle quickened. His posture stiffened, and he moved to block her path to the camper. "She's real shy around new people," he said, his earlier warmth gone like a snuffed candle. "We've got to hit the road. Long trip ahead." "Oh, I didn't mean to overstep," Sarah said, startled by his abrupt chill. "I just thought—" "Chloe, step back from the door," Harold snapped, nearly sprinting the last few steps to the RV. The girl looked up, puzzled, and in that fleeting moment, Sarah's breath hitched. The freckles, even from 20 feet, even in the camper's dim light, she saw them. A perfect triangle of 3 freckles on the bridge of her nose, with 2 smaller ones aligned below. Not a random scatter, but a distinct pattern Sarah had kissed goodnight countless times. Harold reached the RV, slamming the door shut with a thud that startled the girl. Through the window, Sarah saw her lips move, maybe asking something, before Harold's hand guided her away from the glass. He jumped into the driver's seat without looking back, the engine roaring to life with a puff of dark smoke. "Harold!" Sarah called, but the Winnebago was already rolling, pulling away with the gas hose still attached. It snapped free with a sharp clang, the safety valve stopping the flow as the hose recoiled. Harold didn't pause, speeding onto the highway northbound. Sarah stood rooted in the lot, the cashier's shouts about the broken pump fading to background noise. All she could see was that freckle pattern, the exact constellation the forensic artist had painstakingly recreated in every age progression image. She was being irrational. 8 years of false hopes had taught her to spot Emma in every face. The girl didn't resemble what her daughter would look like. Wrong hair color, wrong frame, wrong everything except those freckles and Harold's panic. The kind old crossing guard who'd led searches and mourned at vigils had fled like a cornered animal rather than let her near the girl. His shift from warm ally to frantic stranger left a cold knot in her gut, unrelated to the morning's grim findings. The kitchen was too still as Sarah stood by the stove, staring at water that wouldn't boil. She'd grabbed a box of spaghetti half an hour ago, but her hands kept pausing, her thoughts circling back to the gas station. The pot sat ignored as she gazed out the window into the dark, replaying that glimpse of freckles on a teenage girl's nose. She forced herself to act, tossing pasta into barely warm water. The girl didn't look like Emma would now, blonde hair instead of Emma's reddish-brown. A stockier build where Emma had been delicate, a completely different face shape. Freckles were common, countless kids had them. She was falling back into old habits, imagining her daughter in every stranger. But Harold's behavior, the water overflowed, sizzling on the burner. Sarah jerked the pot off, ignoring the spilled mess. That shift from kind friend to terrified stranger looped in her mind. The way he'd pushed the girl back, slammed the door, sped off with the hose still connected. That wasn't a grieving man being cautious. That was fear. She abandoned the pasta and grabbed her phone. "Detective Carter," she said when he picked up. "Sorry to call so late." "No trouble, Mrs. Thompson. What's on your mind?" She tried to sound calm, rational. I was wondering, back in the initial investigation, did you ever look into Harold Walsh? The crossing guard. She heard keyboard clicks, a mouse scrolling. Let me check the files. Harold Walsh, 70 back then. Yeah, he was questioned along with all school staff. Spotless record, no arrests, not even a speeding ticket. 30 years as a trusted employee. Notes say he was crushed by Emma's disappearance, organized dozens of volunteer searches. More clicks. Why are you asking about him? Sarah paused. How could she explain a hunch? A freckle pattern. A moment of odd behavior. I saw him at the gas station today. He's got a young girl with him now, says she's his adopted niece. He got strangely defensive when I asked to meet her. Practically bolted. Carter's tone was kind but measured. Mrs. Thompson, I know today's been rough. That crawl space, revisiting all this pain. It's normal to see things differently now. Grief hits everyone hard. A lot of folks from Emma's case got extra protective of kids afterward. It's a common reaction. You're probably right, Sarah said, feeling silly. Sorry, it's been a lot. No need to apologize. We're chasing every lead from that house. If anything solid comes up, I'll call you first. After the call, Sarah opened her laptop, typing Harold's name into the search bar. Results were thin. No social media, just mentions in old-school newsletters. Crossing guard Harold Walsh marks 25 years, Walsh honored with Safety Award. Photos showed a younger man with full white hair and a warm smile, always with kids around him. She was about to close the tab when a recent article caught her eye from the Pine Hollow Times. 13 months old, Pine Hollow RV Park marks 20th anniversary. She clicked through to a light-hearted piece about the park's milestone, spotlighting residents. Halfway down was a photo of Harold beside his battered Winnebago, the same one from today. Harold Walsh, our newest full-time resident, says Pine Hollow's tranquility is perfect for retirement after years as a school crossing guard. It's a great spot to spend my later years with my adopted niece, Walsh told the Times. The article listed the park's address, which Sarah scribbled in a notebook, her hand moving almost on autopilot. She climbed the stairs to Emma's room, untouched since that awful day 8 years ago, with homework still on the desk and plush toys on the bed. From the closet, she pulled a box of photos and papers. Her fingers found the picture she needed, a favorite of Emma at the beach the summer before she vanished, grinning up at the camera with a missing front tooth. The sunlight caught every freckle perfectly, 3 forming a neat triangle on her nose, about a centimeter apart, with 2 smaller ones lined up below. The forensic artist had called it unique when making the age progression images. Sarah pulled out those images. Emma at 8, 10, 12, 14. The digital renderings showed her face maturing, but that freckle pattern stayed fixed, a signature as distinct as DNA. She placed the 14-year-old image beside the beach photo. If she pictured blonde hair instead of auburn, added some roundness to the cheeks. No, she was tormenting herself with fantasies. Harold Walsh had been a mainstay at that crosswalk for decades. He'd guided countless kids to school safely. He'd sobbed at Emma's memorial, spent his savings on search flyers. The girl was his adopted niece, as he'd said. The freckles were a fluke. But as Sarah closed the box, her gaze lingered on the notebook with the Pine Hollow RV Park address. Just to ease her mind, she told herself, to prove she was overthinking. She'd drive by tomorrow, see the girl clearly in daylight, confirm she wasn't Emma, and let this obsession go. The pasta pot sat on the counter, its contents a gluey lump. Sarah tossed it in the trash and went to bed hungry, the Pine Hollow address seared into her thoughts. Sleep wouldn't come. Sarah lay awake, staring at the ceiling, those freckles flashing every time she shut her eyes. By 4 a.m., she gave up and brewed coffee, sitting at the kitchen table with the circled RV park address. By 5:30, she was driving, telling herself it was just a ride to clear her head. The RV park lay on the town's edge, where suburbs faded into pine woods. A simple sign marked the entrance, Pine Hollow RV Park. Weekly, monthly, annual rates. Dawn cast long shadows over orderly rows of RVs, from sleek motorhomes to humble trailers. A few early risers walked dogs or sipped coffee under awnings. The office was a cozy trailer with flower baskets by the windows. A bell jingled as Sarah entered, and a woman in her 50s looked up from a crossword. Her name tag read Maggie, manager, and her smile brightened at a potential guest. "Morning. What can I do for you?" "I'm curious about monthly rates," Sarah said, surprised at her own smooth lie. "For a small RV, going through some changes." "Oh, we've all been there," Maggie said kindly, grabbing a glossy pamphlet. "We've got plenty of spots open. Let's take a walk. You can't get the vibe of a place without seeing it." They wandered the main path, gravel crunching underfoot. Maggie chatted nonstop, pointing out features: the laundry room, the shared fire pit, the bathhouse for smaller rigs. She greeted residents like old friends. "That's Tom in Space 15, ex-Marine, makes killer ribs. The Carters in Space 22 just welcomed their first grandkid, they're thrilled. And down at the end, Space 38, that's Harold Walsh. Keeps to himself mostly." Sarah's heart raced. "Sounds like a good community." "Oh, it is. Harold's quiet, though. Odd hours, often out during the day. Nice girl he's got with him. They've been here about a year." Maggie leaned in, voice low. "He homeschools her. Says public schools aren't rigorous enough." "Must be true, I've seen her with college-level books." "That's commitment, homeschooling at his age," Sarah noted. "Family's all that matters," Maggie said, mirroring Harold's words from the gas station. "Well, I'll let you roam a bit, soak it in. Swing by the office before you leave and we'll talk rates." Sarah thanked her and meandered, pretending to inspect the grounds. She lingered at the community board, scanning flyers, all while inching toward the park's far end. Space 38 was secluded, nestled against dense pines. Harold had built privacy with lattice panels and blue tarps, forming a barrier around the Winnebago's door. A small awning shaded 2 camp chairs and a folding table. Sarah moved closer, listening intently. Then she heard it, a girl's voice, humming an aimless tune from inside the RV, the kind of melody kids invent on the spot. The windows had thick curtains, but one had a slight gap where the fabric didn't meet. Pulse racing, Sarah edged nearer, peering through the narrow opening. The girl sat at the table, hunched over a sketchbook, colored pencils strewn about. Her blonde hair hung loose, framing her face as she drew. A tub of strawberry ice cream, same brand Harold bought, sat open beside her. She took a spoonful absent-mindedly, her focus on her artwork. A drip of melted ice cream landed on her left arm. Without looking, she scratched the spot with her other hand. Sarah's breath stopped. Even from 10 feet, she saw the red welt flare up near the girl's elbow, a raised, angry patch, swelling and reddening as she watched. The memory hit like a punch. Emma at 4, sobbing in the kitchen, her arm dotted with that same rash. The frantic drive to urgent care. The allergist's words: "It's rare. Most strawberry allergies cause widespread hives or breathing issues. Emma has localized contact dermatitis. Her skin in that specific spot reacts intensely to strawberry proteins. Very uncommon. They've been vigilant ever since. No strawberry products in the house. Constant label checks, warnings to every caregiver and teacher. And that exact spot, always the left arm near the elbow where her skin was hypersensitive. The allergist called it a marker, that precise reaction in that unique location." The girl scratched again, glancing at the rash with irritation. She wiped the ice cream off with a napkin. But the welt would linger for hours. Sarah knew, just like Emma's always had. She stumbled back from the window, legs shaky. In her car, she grabbed her phone, tears blurring Detective Carter's number. She didn't recall starting to cry. "The strawberry allergy," she choked out when he answered. "Left arm, near the elbow. Localized contact dermatitis. It's in her medical files. Dr. Nguyen at Children's Hospital documented it thoroughly. No one else would have that exact reaction in that exact place. The odds are astronomical." Carter's calm wavered. You're sure? You saw it happen? I watched her eat strawberry ice cream. The rash is spreading exactly like Emma's. Same spot, same pattern, same everything. Where are you right now? Pine Hollow RV Park, near Space 38. I can move. Head to the main office area now. Park where you can see the entrance but not Space 38. Units are on the way. This is enough to act on. Mrs. Thompson, we're coming. Sarah drove slowly to the park's entrance, each foot feeling like a marathon. She parked by the office, where Maggie waved, unaware of the police heading their way. From here, Space 38 was out of sight, as was Harold and the girl Emma. It had to be Emma. Sarah gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, glancing at the rearview mirror every few seconds, praying Harold wouldn't leave, praying the girl would still be there when help arrived. 3 police cruisers glided into the park silently, their quiet approach more chilling than sirens. Detective Carter's unmarked car led them. He parked beside her and leaned toward her window, his face composed but his eyes sharp with focus. Mrs. Thompson, stay here. We're checking Space 38. If this is your daughter, we need to proceed carefully. I know, she said, though every instinct screamed to race toward that RV. She watched the officers advance down the path, their steps precise and coordinated. Curious residents stepped out of their RVs, murmuring about the police. Maggie rushed from the office, her crossword abandoned, face etched with confusion. The weight felt unbearable. Sarah watched the officers vanish around the curve toward the park's rear, picturing them nearing Space 38, encircling the Winnebago. Any second now they'd have answers. Any second, 8 years of torment might finally end. Carter's radio crackled, and even from her car, Sarah caught the strain in the officer's voice. Unit 1. Space is clear. RV's gone. Fresh tracks show a quick exit. Her stomach dropped. She was out of her car before she knew it, running toward Carter as he hurried back from the park's edge. Maggie intercepted them, her face red with worry. What's going on? Why are the police here? Is everyone all right? Carter pulled out his phone, displaying a photo of Harold. This man, Harold Walsh, Space 38. When did you last see him? Harold? He paid his rent yesterday, but I saw his RV leave maybe 20-25 minutes ago. Took the back service gate. She gestured toward the park's rear. It leads to the old logging trail. Some folks use it to skip the highway traffic. Did something happen? Where might he go? Carter pressed. Does he have a favorite spot? Somewhere secluded. Maggie's hands fidgeted. He mentioned yesterday when he paid something about a spot by Willow Creek. Said he was thinking of taking his niece camping for her birthday. It's an old Forest Service clearing, he said. No one bothers him there. Where exactly? Forest Service Road 52, about 10 miles up the ridge, past the old lookout tower. It's way out there. No cell signal, just trees and the creek. Her voice quavered. Is the girl okay? Is Chloe okay? Carter was already in motion, issuing commands into his radio. Roadblocks on the main roads, units to Forest Service Road 52, all available officers to head up the ridge. He turned to Sarah, his face firm. You need to stay put. This could get risky. But Sarah was already moving to her car. That's my daughter up there, detective. She was behind the wheel, trailing the police convoy before he could argue. If Carter radioed to block her, she didn't hear. All she knew was Emma was 10 miles up a ridge with a man who'd stolen 8 years of their lives. The police cars ahead kept a steady pace on the twisting ridge road, Thick pine woods closed in, the morning light barely filtering through the branches. The road zigzagged, climbing with each turn. Sarah's car struggled on the steeper climbs, but she stayed close, her grip firm on the wheel despite the shaking in her core. 8 miles. 9. The old lookout tower loomed briefly through the trees, its rusted frame weathered by time. 10 miles. The lead car's brake lights flashed, and Carter's voice cut through a radio audible to her. Winnebago sighted. Clearing ahead. All units, prepare to engage. The clearing broke open like a scar in the forest, a flat patch about 50 yards wide, ringed by towering pines. Willow Creek murmured along the far side, its water dark and slow. There, parked crookedly near the trees, was Harold's worn Winnebago. Police cars spread out in a precise formation, cutting off any escape. Officers stepped out using their vehicles for cover, weapons drawn but kept low. Sarah pulled in behind the last car, and an officer approached to wave her back, but Carter signaled him off. Let her stay, but keep her behind the line, he directed, then raised a megaphone. Harold Walsh, this is Detective Carter, County Sheriff's Office. Exit the vehicle with your hands up. Silence hung heavy. Even the woods seemed to pause, no birds, no rustling leaves. The creek's trickle felt too loud. Harold, we know you have the girl. We know it's Emma Thompson. Let's end this calmly. Step out and talk. More silence, then a faint voice from inside the RV, scared, uncertain. Sarah's legs nearly gave out at the sound. After 8 years, her daughter's voice, altered by time but still carrying that unique tone she'd recognize anywhere. The RV's door creaked open. Harold emerged first, and Sarah gasped at the change. The kind crossing guard was gone. His face was drawn, eyes frantic, and in his right hand he gripped a hunting rifle. His left arm held the girl tightly against him, using her as a shield. The girl was crying, mascara streaking her face. When had Emma started wearing makeup? She looked both exactly as Sarah had pictured and entirely different. The blonde hair was jarring, as was the rounder build, but those freckles stood out clear even from across the clearing. "Grandpa, what's going on?" the girl sobbed. "Why are the police here? What did we do?" "Quiet, Chloe." "It's all right," Harold said, his voice breaking. Then, louder, to the officers, "You don't get it. I saved her. Her parents didn't deserve her, letting a 6-year-old walk to school alone in this world. I gave her everything. I taught her everything. She's my daughter now." Harold Carter's voice through the megaphone stayed even, soothing. "We don't want anyone hurt. Lower the rifle and let's talk this through." "There's nothing to discuss," Harold shouted, his voice nearly a wail. 8 years. 8 years I've been her family. I'm all she knows. You can't just rip her away." A radio crackled to Sarah's left, the static sharp. The sound made Harold flinch, the rifle briefly swinging away from the girl's head. In that fleeting moment, the girl must have felt his hold slacken. With a wild instinct, she tore free and ran, her blonde ponytail flying as she bolted toward the police line, toward safety, toward a mother she didn't recall. For a heart-stopping second, Harold aimed the rifle at her back. Sarah's scream tore through the air. Officers barked orders. The girl kept running, tripping on the rough ground but not stopping. Then Harold's face collapsed. As officers closed in, he turned the rifle on himself, pressing the barrel under his chin. 2 officers, unnoticed in their stealthy approach, hit him with tasers. The electric jolt struck before he could pull the trigger. Harold spasmed and fell, the rifle dropping harmlessly to the pine-strewn ground. Officers swarmed, kicking the weapon aside, cuffing his hands as he wept into the dirt. The girl reached the police line but froze, staring at the scene in horror. When Sarah broke through the officers, "Calling Emma?" "Emma," the girl recoiled, her tear-stained face full of fear and confusion. "My name is Chloe," she said, her voice small and fractured. "My parents are dead. Who are you? Why is everyone lying?" She hugged herself, backing away from this stranger claiming to be her mother, her eyes darting to the only parent she knew, now handcuffed, sobbing about saving her, about giving her a better life. An officer stepped gently between them, speaking softly. "You're safe now. No one's going to harm you. We'll take you to the hospital to check you're okay. I don't need a hospital, the girl's voice spiked with panic. I need my grandpa. He's sick. He has diabetes. He needs his medicine. She tried to push toward Harold. Grandpa, tell them. Tell them about the crash. Another officer approached Sarah, resting a hand on her shoulder. Ma'am, we need to let the paramedics examine her. You can follow to the hospital. Sarah nodded, dazed, watching as EMTs approached the frightened girl with slow, careful steps. They spoke gently, calling her Chloe, not challenging her reality yet. One, a woman with warm eyes, coaxed her toward the ambulance, assuring her they were just ensuring she wasn't hurt, that answers would come soon. As they passed where Harold lay, the girl broke free briefly, dropping beside him. I'll get a lawyer, Grandpa, like you taught me. I know my rights. I won't let them take me. Her young voice burned with resolve even as tears fell. You're all I have. You've always been all I have. The EMTs eased her away, and this time she didn't fight, walking to the ambulance like a ghost. At the doors, she glanced back, her eyes sweeping the clearing until they met Sarah's. For a split second, something flickered in her gaze, not recognition, but a hint of doubt, as if some buried part of her was wrestling with what she saw against what she'd been told. Then it vanished, and her expression hardened. My mother is dead, she said flatly, stepping into the ambulance. Whoever you are, my mother is dead. The doors shut, and Sarah stood in the chaotic clearing, surrounded by police, watching the ambulance carry her living daughter away, a stranger with Emma's freckles, bearing 8 years of someone else's lies. The hospital's pediatric wing smelled of antiseptic and polished floors, stirring memories of Emma's birth 14 years ago. But the girl in the exam room was a far cry from the child Sarah remembered. She sat stiffly on the bed, arms crossed tightly, blonde hair a mess, her face locked in defiant rejection. I want to see my grandpa, Emma said for the 10th time, her voice rising. You can't hold me here. I know my rights. He taught me about unlawful detention. The nurse adjusting her forehead glanced helplessly at Sarah, who stood rooted by the door, too scared to approach and spark another outburst. The first time she'd gotten close, Emma had screamed and hurled a water cup. Honey, the nurse tried, you're safe here. We just need to, my name is Chloe. Emma's eyes blazed. Chloe Walsh. My parents died in a car crash when I was 6. June 20th, highway pileup, 3 cars, instant. She recited it like a prayer, her fingers twisting the hospital blanket. Grandpa showed me the news clippings. He kept them in a binder so I'd never forget. Sarah's heart broke with every syllable. The lie was so intricate, so carefully woven. Emma, please stop calling me that. The girl's voice splintered. My mom is dead. Dead. Why is this woman lying? Why won't anyone tell me what's real? She turned to the nurse, eyes pleading. Please, I need my grandpa. He's probably so scared for me. When Sarah stepped closer instinctively, Emma lost it. She tore the 4 from her arm, blood spotting the sheets, and bolted for the door. 2 orderlies gently held her back while the doctor gave a mild sedative. I want to go home, Emma cried as the drug kicked in. Please, I want my grandpa. We were going camping for my birthday. He promised. 20 miles away in a stark interrogation room at the county station, Harold Walsh faced Detective Carter. The old man seemed diminished without his crossing guard persona, his shoulders hunched, hands cuffed to the table. His confession came in halting bursts, mixed with excuses and tears. My wife died 30 years ago, he started, voice barely a murmur. She was pregnant. Cancer took them both. The emptiness, you can't know what 30 years alone does to you. Carter stayed quiet, letting him speak. I watched those kids every morning for decades. Saw parents who didn't value what they had. That morning, seeing little Emma walking alone again, his face twisted. Something broke. I'd called in sick. I'd been thinking for weeks how dangerous it was. A 6-year-old alone. So you took her? I saved her, Harold insisted. I told her there was an emergency, that her mom asked me to get her. She trusted me. I'd helped her cross the street for months. I love her. I took care of her. She loves me too. Please don't take her from me. The news clippings about the crash? Harold's gaze flicked away. I made them. Used an old computer program. Took weeks to get the details perfect. When she'd question things, remember bits, I'd show her the clippings. Said her trauma was mixing things up. Tell me about the house on Pine Hollow Road. Harold's face fell. 7 years we stayed there. I homeschooled her, kept her safe. When she'd push back, insist her parents were alive, he stopped, swallowing hard. The crawl space was for timeouts, never more than a few days. I tried to make it nice, put up her poster, brought her favorite snacks. You chained her in a crawl space. Only when she wouldn't accept the truth, Harold said, voice rising. I gave her everything: schooling, love, safety. The hair dye was to give her a new start. I told her it was medicine, vitamins for her health. She believed me. She learned to trust me. Why leave the evidence? Harold's shoulders slumped. The school forced retirement. I couldn't stay the crossing guard. Had to move fast, find a new place. I thought the house would be torn down. Never thought. Carter leaned in. When did she stop resisting? 2 years in, Harold whispered. She stopped asking about her parents, started calling me Grandpa. She was happy. We were happy. I gave her a better life than parents who let her walk alone. At the hospital, Dr. Laura Bennett met Sarah in a small consultation room. The child psychologist's face was warm but grave, her words precise. Emma has endured extreme psychological manipulation and trauma bonding, she said. The false memories Harold built are deeply rooted. Her real memories aren't erased, but they're buried under 8 years of a consistent fabricated story. Will she remember me? Sarah's voice was faint. Those early memories are still there. The brain doesn't just discard experiences, but reaching them through layers of deception will take time, intensive therapy, maybe years. And I have to be honest, there's no certainty she'll fully recover those early memories. But she's alive, Sarah whispered. She's alive. Dr. Bennett squeezed her hand. She's alive and she's safe. We take the rest one step at a time. Through the observation window, Sarah watched her daughter sleep. The sedative had softened the tense lines in her face, and in repose, Sarah glimpsed hints of the 6-year-old who'd headed to school that morning 8 years ago. The freckles were the same, that unique constellation that had brought her back. But everything else, the blonde hair, the wary eyes, the guarded posture even in sleep, belonged to a stranger named Chloe Walsh. In her hands, Sarah clutched Emma's medical file. The blood tests confirmed it: severe strawberry allergy, localized reaction at the left anterior elbow. Such a tiny detail, a quirk of skin and immune response. Yet it had pierced 8 years of deception, uncovering a truth Harold had tried to hide. She pressed her hand to the window, watching her daughter breathe, and made a silent promise. No matter how long it took, how many therapy sessions, how many rejections or hurdles, she would help Emma remember. Or, if those memories stayed locked away, they'd create new ones. The 6-year-old was gone, but the 14-year-old was here, alive, found. The medical files pages crinkled in her shaking hands. The strawberry allergy, a cruel irony, a small, specific trait of her daughter's body, had unraveled 8 years of captivity when all else had failed.